Hi, everybody. I'm Chicago psychic and intuitive consultant Mel Dorr. Welcome to my YouTube channel. As many of you all know, I'm from Kentucky originally. I moved to Chicago when I was approximately 28 years old. So I've lived here approximately 40 years. But I still have family and friends in Kentucky. And I want to talk today about the horrific tornado that hit Mayfield and Bowling Green, Kentucky, and areas of Kentucky. It was just absolutely horrendous what happened. When I talk to you all today, my Southern accent might come back a little bit, but I suppose that's okay if it does, because thinking about Kentucky brings back my accent sometimes. So anyway, Bowling Green, Kentucky is the home of Western Kentucky University. And Bowling Green sustained heavy damage. I think it was an EF3 tornado that hit there. Now, I went to college, attended college at Western Kentucky University, so it's my alma mater. And I spent almost 8 years of my life in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Now, when I left there many years ago, they didn't have a lot of industry. Holly Carburetor was hired most people, but I think it's since out of business. But now there's a Corvette factory down there, the Corvette Museum, and that's made the city grow and put a lot of people to work, thank goodness. Now, when I went to Western Kentucky University, the student population was about 13 to 14,000. And now I understand it's about 20,000. So luckily, at least according to what I found out, Western didn't sustain any heavy damage. The campus of Western Kentucky University is beautiful, but a couple streets over is the US 31W bypass, and it runs from east to west. And I understand that that tornado cut a trajectory on the US 31W bypass and just really kind of decimated things in its path. I think Western was lucky, and in a way it was a miracle that the tornado didn't hit the university, because Western still had classes in session, maybe not on a Saturday, but I'm sure there's students living there in the dorms and things like that. Had it hit the university, I am sure that the death toll would have been, and the injuries that is sustained would have been huge. As I said, Western has about 20,000 students. I think fall commencement was supposed to have been that weekend, but they couldn't, and thank goodness, because all they needed was, I think where they hold it is Diddle Arena, full of people, and a tornado hit. That wouldn't be good. If I cry when I do this a little bit, you know, it's because part of my heart is in Kentucky. A big part of it's in Bowling Green, albeit I live here in Illinois now. My heart and my prayers go out to all of the people who lost loved ones, property, hurt, the people that were injured, and those that didn't survive. I suppose if there's any silver lining in any of this, it shows that when a disaster of this magnitude hits, folks band together, regardless of politics, religion, gender, orientation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They band together out of a sense of caring, out of a sense of community, out of a sense of helping out of a sense of humanity. And that is powerful. The people of Mayfield, Kentucky, that town was decimated, just decimated. Let's all send them healing energy. And, you know, I saw Governor Beshear, who's a Democrat, by the way, on television, and it seemed like he was doing an absolute phenomenal job facing all the devastation that the state of Kentucky has gone through. You know, Illinois, down in Edwardsville, there was a factory that was hit. That's down in southern Illinois. I think it's near Carbondale down there, which is really close to Paducah, Kentucky. At any rate, it was an Amazon warehouse that was hit. And so I saw our governor, Governor Pritzker, on the news several times, and I think he's doing an excellent job as well. I have to compliment President Biden. When he found out what happened, he declared federal emergency in Kentucky and some of those states that were hit. So he's right on it. You know, I don't personally donate to the Red Cross. I won't get into it right now. But if you want to help out, and you know, at this holiday season, many of us are so blessed that we have a house and a home. And I think that this thing that happened in Kentucky and the other states where people lost loved ones, properties, just goes to show us that things can change pretty quickly in a nanosecond, and that we should never take for granted our blessings. And that when things of this magnitude happen, especially during this time of year, or any time of the year for that matter, let's all reach out and help. If you can't afford to give money, just give prayers. I mean, it's just $1. If it's just $1, who cares? I've already donated. So one of the official sites you can go to is Western Kentucky I'll say it again. Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. That's Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund, and I'll put it in the section below so you'll see it. And you can donate, and that money will go to help those people of Mayfield, Bowling Green, and the other areas in Kentucky where people were so seriously affected by this storm. In Illinois, Madison County, Illinois is where the Amazon warehouse was. You can go to edwardsvillecommunityfoundation.org. That's edwardsvillecommunityfoundation.org. And I'll put that down below as well to make a donation. Normally, I don't get on here and ask for money, but I think if anybody can just do what they can do, Gary and I have already donated money. You know, it's funny, Kentucky is bordered by so many states. To the west, it's bordered by Missouri, to the northwest, Illinois, to the south by Tennessee, to the east by Virginia, West Virginia, to the north by Ohio, Indiana. So the state of Kentucky is bordered by 7 states. And I think the storm originated in Arkansas or near there, because Mayfield is right. There's Arkansas, but Arkansas doesn't really border Kentucky, just almost barely, but Missouri is right there. So I think it must have started in Arkansas, and I don't know if it hit Missouri, but it tracked across through Mayfield. And Mayfield is in eastern Kentucky. And then it kind of traveled in an easterly direction. And Bowling Green is it's kind of center of the state, but at the bottom. It's about 60 miles north of Nashville, Tennessee. So it cut a path eastward. You know, it's funny, maybe that if there's any silver lining behind all of this, it's a wake-up call for us to really take a good hard look at climate change. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, it might not be due to climate change, could be a freak thing. Well, number one, that storm was on the ground for almost 200 miles. And it's not a record to be on the ground that long, but that many miles, but it's huge. The bigger issue is it's this kind of weather in December. I can never in my lifetime remember a tornado hitting in Kentucky in December. Usually they hit in April or May, but never in December. I talked to my cousin, Becky. Hi, Becky. And my cousins, Debbie and Donna Sue, and they're all okay, thank goodness. You know, a lot of my dad's people lived in Owensboro, Central City area. And that was, I think Central City got hit. But luckily, all my family's safe. Anyway, my cousin Becky told me that I talked to her, and she's the one that informed me that the family was all right. But she had told me that the temperature in Kentucky had been in the 60s, and it had been warm here in Chicago too. And then I guess a cold front came through and the temperature dropped. And when you got, you know, warm weather and you get a cold front coming through, or you got cold weather or a warm front coming through, that creates thunderstorms, which sets the stage for tornadoes. So this climate change is real. And you know, some of these politicians like Mitch McConnell, who didn't want to really put into the Build Back Better bill, which appropriated funds and things to fight climate change. I understand that he went down or looked at the devastation or something. He should be ashamed of himself for not wanting to work with climate change. I'm not trying to politicize this event, but I think it's a wake-up call. Now, some meteorologists say they don't know if it's climate change or not. Here again, at the risk of repeating myself, I asked my guides, and they tell me it is. Linda Grendel and I had predicted severe weather, you know, a lot of outbreaks, more outbreaks of severe weather. And myself never dreaming that something of that magnitude would hit. It just boggles your mind. So I hope that everybody can donate a little something, whether it's water, blankets, clothing, even they're asking for blood, money, $1, $2, whatever you got or whatever you can afford. You know, every time I watch it on television, I cry, especially when I see the death toll ranging from 5 months to 86 years old. I mean, people went to work in a candle factory in Mayfield, and many of them never came home. Any loss of life is sad, always. But during a tragedy like this, a natural disaster like this, it seems more sad and tragic around the holidays. I understand that Mayfield residents are without water, power, gas, and it's getting chilly down there. So I understand that there's shelter down there and things like that, but it makes me want to jump in the car and just take a load of blankets down there and do something. Anyway, you know, this, as I said, this climate change is very serious. And so I think we all need to be proactive about telling our politicians that we want things done to stop this climate, to help stop climate change, to, you know, cleaner fuels, to helping the environment, you know, to helping the Earth Mother heal. As I said, I do have to say President Biden was right there. He's done a great job. And the governors of those states, Bashir, our governor here in Illinois, Governor Pritzker, they were on it. It just makes me wonder in the past administration what would have occurred. Anyway, so I didn't come on any sooner because I didn't want to make it look as if I was jumping on the bandwagon about this horrible disaster. So my heart, my prayers, everything goes out to those people that went through that horrific, horrific storm. You know, I'll tell you a little story about myself. I think it was April the 1st or April the 4th, April the 1st, I think. 1974, I've got the date right. My mom and my grandma, I say grandma, had been out. I think that grandma wanted to go shopping or something. We had been out. I think I was like 19 or 20. And this was in Louisville, in a suburb of Louisville. And it was in April, and it had been kind of warm, but then it started getting a little bit chilly. But it had been kind of rainy that day and overcast. But Mom and we, as I said, Mom and Grandma and me were out. And I looked out the car window and I said, Mom, we need to get home because the sky just got this crazy color green. It was like almost a grape dark green and lightning. So anyway, we got home, and in those days, my mom lived in an apartment complex, but she was on the ground floor, and there were like two, it was a 3-story buildings, but she was on the ground. And I-65 ran right through, and across a little bit to the north was the Kentucky Fair and Exposition Center and all that stuff. So anyway, we got home, and I looked out, and the wind was just, ooh, and the trees were just doubling. And I looked out the back sliding door, and I could see across I-65 this tornado. And you don't know what to do. Now, in those days, they didn't have sirens, or in some places of Kentucky, they say sirens. They didn't have any sirens. They didn't have tornado warning systems like they do now. And I heard the water gargle in the toilet. Not a good sign. Now, back in those days, they say open your doors and your windows. You know, now they say don't do that. Well, we really have time. And around that time, we were trying to get everybody get in the bathroom. The phone was ringing. It was like, what do you do? Do you answer the phone? We didn't answer it. And, you know, luckily, the tornado missed the building my mom was in. It hit right across the road. And it was just, I can't believe it. Anyway, the phone kept ringing. In those days, there were no cell phones. It was like dial phone or, and it was my sister. And she called to tell us that that tornado had hit the Kentucky Fair and Exposition Center. Now, the main building there was a huge building, concrete, steel. The roof was humongous. And my stepfather was a PBX installer. For those of you who don't know what PBX is, it was like something that he worked for South Central Bell. And it was a phone systems they used for businesses and sports things. And he had been at the Kentucky Fair and Exposition Center that day, and he was installing PBS lines. And they saw it coming, and they hunkered down in one of the inner offices. And when he called home, phone lines were down everywhere. I don't know how he got a phone line, but he did. And our phone line stayed up, thank goodness. Electricity was out, but the phone service stayed on. And he said he was okay, shooken up, but he said that there were these huge holes in the roof of the convention center. And he said that when it hit, they were able to get an inner office, but you know, he just saw pieces of the roof going. And he said when he walked out in the parking lot, it was like a big hand had come from the sky and just turned everything over. Billboards with steel girders were just twisted like that. Um, there were telephone poles through cars. And it was that tornado that day that hit Louisville that when they studied it, I think it's when they got the Fujita scale for tornadoes or helped them find that. That one was an F5. And the path of destruction was just horrible. I think on that same day, tornadoes hit Xenia, Ohio. That was really destructive as well. So having lived through that, I think that's why I get emotional. And I do still have a little post-traumatic stress because I will not buy a house in a state where there's tornadoes without a basement. Even here in Illinois, I insist on having a basement because on that day we had nowhere to go. And those big storms, those when they get to be F3, F4, F5, underground's the safest place. So that's my tornado story, and I live to tell it. So I'm a big proponent of working to help stop climate change and to keep our planet green and and having clean energy and all of that stuff. Okay, once again, Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund, for those folks that want to contribute to Mayfield and Bowling Green and all the places that in Kentucky that were so annihilated by the storm. If you in Illinois, if you want to donate to the Illinois Fund, it's edwardsvillecommunityfoundation.org. So, okay. I'm going to be doing a show a little bit later on today with Linda Grindle. I'm going to be on her channel. I don't know what time she'll post it. So I'm excited about that. We'll answer some of your questions. And I've got a lot to talk about on that show as well. Anyway, I did ask my guides about climate change, as I said. And they're telling me there's going to be a lot more ferocious hurricanes, a lot more tornadic activity, and probably increasing in frequency. And I ask if my guides, if we really work to help stop climate change from getting any worse, I asked my guides if we could already reverse the damage that's been done. And they pretty much said no. But what we can do is work to make sure that we don't tip the scale so that the climate change becomes worse and worse and starts to affect things like food production and all of that. So my guide said we can prevent that if we do the things we need to do. And I asked if ultimately our politicians would open their eyes and work together to get the things done we need to do. And they said it's not going to seem that way for a while. Like the guides, like people wouldn't want to work together. They'd be polarized, and, politically and all of that. But the one thing that they did say is when a lot of these storms happen and a lot of these environmental, these disasters happen, that it will spur people grassroots to work together, to come together, to help those who've lost properties and say, we're putting all political differences aside. We are helping each other from a humanitarian sense. And that movement will ultimately, get some of these politicians who are anti-climate change and all of that, the pressure of that will force them to start making positive changes to help keep climate change from becoming any worse. And many of them will get voted out of office as well. And many of them will applaud when they are out of office. It just bothered me, as I said earlier, that people like Mitch McConnell would show up down there but yet he's one that had the gall not to want to vote for Build Back Better and put money toward climate change. Well, maybe this will show the coal companies that they're not going to continue to win, to pay large sums of money toward political campaigns so they can get politicians to let them continue to burn fossil fuels. But I mean, it was just amazing how people stood together on this and band together to help those in need. And I suppose, like I said, during this holiday season and every season, every day, let's just take time to help those in need. If we do, I think it'll send the message that we're all working together. Okay. I just really wanted to get on and talk about this, and just hope that all of you stay safe and well. And I will see you later, because I will be on Linda's show. And I'll probably be putting a show up tomorrow or the next day to talk about current issues. So I hope all of you stay safe and well. And once again, happy holiday season.